Alrighty. Well, so our plans haven't really been 100% fall through. Basically, what I was planning on doing today was opening all of the pre-con decks and the starter pack decks. However, one of my deliveries, uh, essentially I was going to get one Sauron the Dark Lord deck and then one human deck, and then I was getting the 4-pack that would have all 4 commander decks together, and then the starter deck for Lord of the Rings coming out in Magic the Gathering. But the $200 4-pack that I got here, they ended up sending me a second Sauron deck. So now I have to, get a label, stick that, drive all the way up to the city to drop it off at a UPS store, get that sent back, and then in a week they'll give me my money back, and then I need to go and find the 4-pack and buy that again. But we do have the gift boosters coming in, I think, next week. Something like that. They're coming out next week. We were going to get 8 of them, but what ended up happening there is that we pre-ordered 6, and then I told people on Twitch and in my community that if they really wanted to get some Lord of the Rings packs and they wanted the collector booster box, then they could go to Target and pre-order them there. And basically, I was going to get 2 more packs a couple of days ago, and I decided to put it off until I got home from work, and they were all out of pre-orders then. So if I'm going to get any more of those, it's going to be basically after they launch. I wanted to get 8 so that I would have. There's 20 foil lands in the collector or the gift bundles, basically. So if I got 8 of them, I'd have like 160 foils, and there's like 4 of each foil in there. So I think 4 of each color, if I'm thinking correctly. So with 6, you'd have 24 of each color, and with 8, I would have had 32 of each color. And then I wanted a few foil lands from the collector booster packs to supplement the rest of the lands for my Lord of the Rings decks. Because I don't necessarily want map cards for every land, but I wanted to have, some where they would show up, maybe like 8 or 10 or so in each deck. Would have been nice. But yeah, those are sold out now. We do have a full box of collector boosters coming as well. I went ahead and spent 500 bucks on that because, why not? And since now I have to send that deck back and get my money back on Amazon, I'm gonna basically get that 200 bucks back, and I'll buy the other 2 decks later on, maybe at Walmart or something if I can find them, depending on what happens with all that. But we're gonna open these. I haven't really looked at all of the Lord of the Rings cards. I've been playing Arena online, but I haven't really looked exactly what comes in the precons. So I want to open the precons and the starter pack, because I was thinking maybe this starter pack, or it's a starter kit with 2 decks, uh, for standard, like 60 card decks. One of the first products that I ever bought in Magic was one of these, and I ended up making my first. Well, I had one of these, and I had a box with like a bunch of cards from a set, and that's where I made my first commander deck. And when it comes to Lord of the Rings, I want all of the Lord of the Rings cards possible so that I can have Lord of the Ring events, multiple decks, so a ton of people can play and everything else. So when it comes to opening product, though, I have nothing fancy. Okay, and for cam quality, this is just my normal cam that I have just for streaming and doing stuff. So quality's not super great. If you want to know how jerry-rigged that camera is, I have a lamp that I bought when I got my house that I never use that has flexible lamp posts on the top of it. And basically, I took my cam and stuck it on one of those lamp posts, turned it upside down, and have it bending over the top of my desk. So that's always cool. Maybe someday I will be fancy. Now, when it comes to all this Lord of the Rings stuff, I'm actually, I'm gonna get a box for it at some point, like a Lord of the Rings box proper, and store all the stuff that I can, like even these deck boxes that they have. Like I'm sure that this isn't all going to be collectible, but I would buy all the Lord of the Ring product that I could just to have it for the future. I like these boxes though. I don't know if I'm going to use these boxes, but I think, at least if I keep them in good condition, like store them somewhere, I think it'll be all right. I think it'd be nice to have. Maybe I use them, maybe I don't. Um, Cool picture of a Nazgul in here. I like that. All right. Woo. I'm gonna try to adjust the cam just a little bit. It might interrupt it. Let's get it a little bit closer over here, maybe. Hmm. But yeah, what I will say is that if you can find those collector booster or the gift bundles for like $80 or whatever, like I found at Target, tell your people about them. I think those are probably okay, like value wise, if you can get them for 80. Just because you get the one ring card, which was selling for a decent bit, and you get a booster pack on top of it, then you get all the extras. But I can't tell you to justify buying a $500 collector booster packs box. Um, my reasoning behind specifically getting that isn't really the one ring card. More or less, I wanted the cool looking artwork for the Witch King, the blue black Lord of the Nazgul. I would like a cool Sauron card. I would like the cooler looking version of Pippin as a card. Um, I wouldn't mind a cool looking Gandalf. Just some of the cooler looking cards, the artworks. Not necessarily just like the standard stuff. The ring cards are just kind of be a bonus on top of that if they happen to be pulled, but I wouldn't say just to buy those just to go and gamble. For me, that's just an added bonus on top of it, and I just felt like pulling my own cards. And all of these, I think, are going to be really good. So these are the two starter decks. I just want to see. I'm going to keep these the way they are, the best I can, because I'm actually going to play these this week when I go to do Magic. So I don't know if I'm going to use the 60 card decks, but I want to use the precons without any changes. And then afterwards, I'll try and see if I can use any of the starter deck cards with everything else. But you got Aragorn and Eowyn wed. Whenever Aragorn and Eowyn enter the battlefield or attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. You gain 1 life for each other creature you control. So that is a pretty solid effect, I would think. You're getting 1/1 counters on all creatures, and you get 1 life. So that's pretty darn good. I think that'd be a pretty strong effect. I'm by no means a master card opener or anything like that, nor do I have enough sleeves to sleeve everything that's possibly in here. I have 100 sleeves that I bought for a human deck. I have some like plastic sleeves I could probably grab off some tokens that I bought a long time ago, or some older cards, like older card sleeves that weren't very good that I replaced maybe. But just kind of see. Let's disconnect my headphones from the screen real quick so I can freely move over here. So what they got? Frodo Determined Hero, just normal. Gandalf White Rider. Whenever you cast a spell, creatures you control get 1/0 until end of turn. Scry 1. Whenever Gandalf White Rider dies, put on top of its owner's library, 5th from the top. So similar to the similar to the Balrog, Galadriel Gift Giver. Okay. Bilbo's Ring. I posted a deal for a game mode for the Lord of the Rings that's potentially I think I would like to play. One of them would be the 1v1 matches that then add on to an overall game, good versus evil. The second one, I want to do a like a free for all where Bilbo's Ring would end up being the card that brings the One Ring into play. So I think this is pretty good. 3 cost, Bilbo's Ring. As long as it's your turn, equipped creature has hexproof and can't be blocked. Whenever equipped creature attacks alone, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Now, I think I want this because that means if you did like a 4-person game, or let's say a 6-person game, you'd have 596 cards. Each deck could have 1 Bilbo's Ring, which means it isn't going to be something that you would see commonly out on the field. And then the 1 ring would just be in the middle, basically as Monarch. So you play the one Bilbo's Ring, you get to play the 1 ring onto the field, and then whoever hits you or destroys your ring bearer maybe would take possession of the 1 ring. I think that'd be pretty cool because then you could destroy it and then bring it back a couple of times maybe. I think all that. So Bilbo's Ring I think is pretty good. You get hexproof. Can't be blocked is just really big. That's pretty strong on a card I think. Um, See, like Bilbo's Ring, I would potentially replace some of my other cards and decks that I use. Usually, if I need to protect my commander, I'll bring 1 or 2 hexproof cards. But like even like Swiftfoot Boots or something, replacing with this because your like creature can't be blocked is just a really strong effect, and you get card draw on top of it. Really strong. We got Knight of the Keep. Oh, I need to be over here. Knight of the Keep. So this is just a standard card. I don't think the artwork's bad. Standard card. I wish I had more extended artwork. So you get 3 Knights of the Keep. You get 1 Westfold Rider. Which is kind of interesting. You get 1 Eastmark Cavalier. You get an East Farther Farmer. You get 2 Protectors of Gundor. A Dundade Blade. Second Breakfast. Rosy Cotton of Southline. Banishing Light. Interesting. Lundoval Horizon Witness. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature without flying gains flying. You cannot pass. So that's like if you block or get blocked by a legendary, your creature can get destroyed. You get 2 Mushroom Watchdogs. 2 Woes Pathfinders. So that's a mana dork and a buff. Bag in Porter. Dwarf tongues run when speaking of their handiwork. Get XX until end of turn, where X is the number of legendary creatures controlled. So you get 2 of those. Generous Int. Enters the battlefield, you create food tokens. Nice. Search your library for basic land cards. You get a bow. This one gives reach. Stew the Conius. So Samwise is beating Gollum with a pan. That's kind of good. I like it. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Create a food token. We get the Bree Innkeeper. And then a good amount of lands. So the Shire Terrace, I'm not opposed to this just in a commander deck, really. As much as you would hate to just... Because, like, you can do, I'm thinking Terramorphic Expanse or whatever. But it's guaranteed to come in tapped, and then you have to, get rid of it. So you're like slowing down. So early game, if you got to like turn one, it wouldn't be a big problem. We also get the arena code, which that's something that I really would like. Give me some extra arena cards. Um, but yeah, that the Shire card, I think could actually be a pretty decent card just because it comes in and then you can get 1 mana, you know, no big deal. But then later on, if you just have a spare mana floating around, you can sacrifice it, pull out a land to kind of thin out your deck a little bit. And thinning out your deck, I think, is something a lot of people don't do in Magic very much. Part of the reason, like, why my Darien deck and stuff pops up so hard in my local area, or a lot of my decks, I've went away from using mana rocks and started using more equipments, because people told me equipments were weak and stupid, and mono white was weak and stupid, and I've never had any problems with it as soon as I started using all the stuff people told me never to use. Because with like the swords, for instance, you're able to attack. Like you can get a creature down early, equip a sword to it, buff it up a little bit, swing in. You get extra damage. You're getting extra mana, and you're getting to thin out your deck all at the same time. Which even if you don't have card draw, thinning your deck is good enough. Generally, I gotta turn my AC on. It's getting a little too warm in here. Now I'm actually curious to see what comes in the Sauron Lidless Eye, because this card, black red. I don't know if maybe I could lower this down a little bit, but black red Avatar Horror. When Sauron the Lidless Eye enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. And you pay 3. Creatures you control get 2/0 until end of turn. Each opponent loses 2 life. I don't know if that's necessarily the strongest effect I've ever seen, but it's alright. I'm not opposed to it. Oh my. This package is glued. Glued way more than I thought it would be. Holy moly. So this one, we got Gollum Scheming Guide. I'm actually surprised that they didn't do Gollum as like a colorless card. Top 2 cards of your library, put them back in any order, then choose land or non-land. Opponent guesses whether the top card of your library is the chosen kind. Reveal that card. If they guessed right, remove Gollum from combat. Otherwise, you draw a card and Gollum can't be blocked. That's interesting. Potentially, this could be a really strong card with just like even a basic equipment like oh God, what's it called? Black Blade, I believe. just unblockable, get smacked. Witch King, Bringer of Ruin. So like Witch King deck, I really want to do this. So at least I have this card. It's not a fancy card art, but I would like the fancy card art. Defending player sacrifices a creature with the least power among creatures they control. I think it's pretty good. We got Fires of Mount Doom. 2 damage to target creature opponent controls. Destroy all equipment attached to that creature. That'd be strong versus my decks for sure. We got a Balrog. Opponent controls dies. Huh. We got some basic Goblin Warriors. We got 2 Easterling Vanguards. Per creature or enchantment an opponent controls, you lose life equal to that permanent's mana cost. I mean, Feed the Swarm. I ain't gonna say it's the best, but I mean it's 2 kinds, so it's not terrible. You get some birds. You get these catapults. I wish these catapults had like wordage that said you could have multiple ones in a deck as well. I think that's something that could have been more common for like the Gundor decks and stuff, to have like commander cards that had like a Gundor Knight or something, and you could have so many copies of it in the deck. The catapults, you could have so many copies, and so many copies. Target creature gets 1/2 and gains Death Touch. See, this Gothmog Morgul Lieutenant, I think, is a really good card. I mean, you amass Orcs 1, but creature tokens you control have Death Touch. And in my Queen Marchesa deck that I'm going to build, this guy's going to be in there for sure. Because it gives me a secondary way to get Death Touch, which I think is going to be pretty good. I think there's potentially another card that does a similar effect. So if I run 3, there's a good chance that I'll pull one of them, you know? Okay, we got some Troll Soldiers. See, I'm not the biggest fan of the normal trolls, but I like the armored attack trolls or giants. I forget what they were called. Elephant. Okay, it gets mountain cycling. I'm alright with that. Foray of Orcs. Okay, we get an Orc Commander. The White Hand. Mindstone. See, Evolving Wilds, yeah. Got 4 of those. See, these lands are nice, but they're not the foil ones, which I kind of want. Because, like, if there was ever, like, I never really bother to get foil lands for any deck, but if there's ever any deck that I'm going to get full foil, it's going to be Lord of the Rings. Definitely for Gundor. But every deck that I can, I'm going to try to get foil if possible. Okay. I thought there was going to be a couple more cards in there, but we still got the Witch King, which is fine for me in there, so I like that. And I don't think that we had the Aragorn and Eowyn Wed card in here. I probably could have bought cards online for cheaper than what I got here, honestly, but we have the pack. I'm not opposed to it. That's something I can say is like, I wish, like my uncle got me into Magic a while back, and the first time I played Magic was the funnest time that I ever had, because I just went to the store and I tried to make a deck with whatever I had, and I happened to pull some crazy cards out of some packs that were all random, And then my first deck that I ever built for Commander, I got stuck against a guy with like a $5,000 Angel deck, foil everything, every type of invincibility and effect that you could potentially imagine. And I somehow pulled it out and beat him on my first game match. But it's like ever since then, it's been mainly just singles and stuff online. Like I've gotten like Commander boxes for like Edgar Markov back in the day, but like as soon as I tried to play them, like almost every Commander that I went and like bought randomly because I thought they were kind of cool, ended up getting like banned from my local area. That's interesting. It's a box that I don't necessarily want to rip open, and I'm not exactly sure how to get it out. I just need to tug a little harder. See, some of this stuff that I actually needed, though, like these 1/1 counters and things, I've never had any of this stuff. And I keep thinking about getting things like this, and then I never do. Like dice, everything. What is this? See, this one's a more generic card box, but I could potentially keep these as well. I don't know exactly what all, like, so we get +1/+1 counters on one side. This right here is something that I've wanted for a long time. A live spin dial. I'm going to tell you right now, this thing right here, it's going to cause me so much joy when I play. I can't, because I haven't had dice for a long time. It's part of the reason why I went and got some of those gift bundle boxes is because I want some dice. Like I have a few dice. I have like 6, and I keep thinking I'm gonna go buy dice, and I never do. And then like I'll take a break from Magic and come back and stuff, and then I'll still have no deal. But people have had these things for a while. I almost thought about making my own out of a piece of paper. But yeah, spin down dial, Lord of the Rings style. I like it. Oh, we need some of those. Okay, I like it. Now, I don't know exactly what these are. Are they just for style, or are they actually... It looks like these... It says Jeff Carpenter on it. They look cool, but there's no artwork or anything on the back of them. I mean, I'd probably keep that just to have it. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I mean, cool looking though. There's 2 of them in here, so I mean, I would think they would have a purpose, maybe. And then there's one on the front that says Sadawan. I guess maybe you're supposed to pop these out. These are like decorations for stores or something, maybe. But yeah, these like 1/1 counters. Vigilance, Lifelink. I don't know what that other one is. These are things that I've needed or would be useful. I don't think I probably don't necessarily need them, but these would be useful to have just on my tokens in general. Just to have like a box of, I can kind of showcase what's on my tokens a little bit better. And 1/1 counters are cool. I thought this was a card, but I guess it's not. They tricked me out on this front part. I thought that was a card. I don't think it is. You could definitely cut that out and use it as a card if you wanted, though. Holy moly. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if another human entered the battlefield under your control this turn, create 2/2 red human knight creature tokens. My thing is that I'm gonna make a Gundor deck of some port. It's gonna be Faramir, Steward of Gundor, and then like Helm of the Host. Copy paste. I mean that's like crazy card draw, crazy token generation if they try to attack me. It's gonna be good. All right. So we got that first part there. Try to move all this stuff over here. But I don't know if these things will be like collectible or not in the future. I doubt it. Probably just gonna be like generic Magic stuff. But I could see like if Lord of the Ring fans like later on down the line, or like if new fans showed up and wanted to collect some of these, like 60 years from now, having some of them might be decent. I can't really tell. Got life down counter. We got the sample booster pack. I get a look at this human deck card. So this is a deck that I'm going to be using this week, probably. And actually, this is the deck that I have some card sleeves for. I got Gandalf with a Gundor symbol in the back of it. I have to get some more sleeves later. I got a bit too much stuff going on in my life right now to keep buying more card sleeves, but I'm going to need like 1,000 packages of sleeves for sure. 100%. Because this is what they're like. This is what's happening right now with this. Okay, like with most Magic sets or whatever that come out, there's not a commander that really interests me. When I see like a really strong OP commander, I'm not like, oh, I need to go get that and make a deck. When it comes to Lord of the Rings, I don't necessarily have an urge to play every deck. Like I'm mainly a Gundor player, or like I like Armored Cave Trolls because that's from like the Battle for Middle Earth 2 sort of thing. But I would want a deck to play like other people. Like I would want one of each sort of deck to play as many people as possible, Lord of the Rings style. Try to fix my headset real quick. My headset's like the next thing that I need to fix too. Like I got a lot of stuff on my computer I'm gonna need to replace at some point. This is my second pair of headphones that I got from these guys though. I liked the first one so much. They had like a defect in them that anytime I played a game that had like bass in it, basically the other headphones that I had, they had a defect where like they would vibrate before you would even hear anything. And then they ended up breaking at one point, so I had to replace them with these, and it doesn't have the issue. But now this one, like the earmuffs and stuff, are starting to fall off because I've had them for so long. I can get my card sleeves out. Holy moly. Holy crap. Release the sleeves, my guy. Alright. These are a little bit more sticky than my other ones that I use in my other decks, but whatever. So we have Eowyn Shield Maiden. We got Aragorn King of Gondor as a secondary. King of Gondor, 3 color. Enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. Attacks up to one target creature can't block this turn. If you're the monarch, creatures can't block this turn. It's interesting. Lost to Legend. Put target non-land historic permanent into its owner's library, 4th from the top. 2 mana. Okay. Eckenbrand, Lord of Westfold. So I don't know Westfold from the movies or anything, so this is kind of interesting to me. It sounds like it's like a Rohan thing. Um, but we've seen a couple of Westfold cards. Like that's how detailed I would get into this too. Like if you had enough people to play, you could just keep breaking down the decks until you like this guy would be a commander of Westfold, you know? And you have like a Westfold commander, a Rohan commander, every single city you could just have someone play as that guy. Be interesting. Banishing Light, so this is the same thing that we had for the starter deck. So I probably could have saved some money with the starter deck. I probably will just keep the starter deck as it is. And then if I ever play like a standard thing, then I'll just pop those out maybe. I wanted to jack the commanders out of them was the main thing. So that's a exile effect. Fiend Hunter with different art. Fiend Hunter's a decent card. Hmm. 1/3 for 3. Payless Jailer. This is a Monarch card reskin. Another exile target thing though. So I mean they got some decent removals. I ain't gonna say it's the best, but I mean the exile effects are exile effects. I mean it's not gonna be like turn 2 all your stuff's gone, but Path to Exile. I like it. Got Wormtongue on there. See, I want to make decks with like the cards that are thematic to different areas. So like Path to Exile in this artwork with Wormtongue is a Rohan, like he's getting exiled from Rohan, and so I would put this in the Rohan deck or a Fellowship deck. Maybe not in the Gondor deck. Sunset Revelry. If an opponent has more life than you, gain 4 life. If an opponent controls more creatures than you, create 2 white human creature tokens. Opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw a card. That's pretty decent. I mean, 2 mana and you're basically gonna get 4 life 2 creatures and a card off of it. I'm not opposed to it. I actually really like cards like this. So like in my Gundor deck, for example, or even like my Darien deck, Recruit the Worthy is like a card that everybody hates. Like they say it's a terrible card. Like there's a lot of cards in mono white that people say are terrible because it's like 4 mana for 1 creature, and basically everyone's trying to streamline their decks so much that with mono white they're like, oh, it's just not mana efficient, so you don't run that card. And my philosophy has always been in decks is like those cards like that aren't mana efficient, you just have to make up for your deficiencies in the deck. Like when mono white didn't have card draw, all the card draw options basically either you had to attack creatures, or you had to like make tokens, or you had to have a bunch of mana. And I was like, I have a commander that costs a bunch of mana. White generally has problems with mana ramp. You know, the card draw requires a bunch of mana. So the easiest fix is just to fix the mana issue. And I did that really easy. You just make like a third of your deck like creatures and artifacts and stuff related to mana, and then you end up having way more mana than everyone else at the table. And then you don't really have that many artifacts that they can destroy to stop you. They'd have to wipe all your lands, but people don't like land removal, and even then you could just slot land, like bring back lands, Crucible of Worlds or something. And then like Recruit the Worthy becomes a card where they're like, God, how do I stop it? Because they can't destroy it. Like they have to counterspell it. It's no longer like a pay. And that card's like it's like pay 1 or something, make a token, but then you can pay 3 more and get the card back, basically. So like it's no longer a it's 4 mana for a 1/1 that sucks. It's like if your deck's built right, that 1/1's going to be something that's pretty scary, and then you're going to have every turn you're making it. So like Queen Marchesa, you could run Recruit the Worthy, and every turn just pop out like 2, 3, 4, 5 soldiers. Stick them with Death Touch. Sword of Plowshares. Nice, nice. Village Bellringer. Untap all creatures you control. Flash. That's interesting. So this is basically you strike at an enemy, bait them into attacking you, and then you flash in, untap your creatures. Stuff like this, I think people underestimate, and it's things that I actually really like, but I can't force myself to build a deck around it. Because this is like, I have to have my creatures tapped, or someone has to tap me, and then I'm gonna pop this in and catch them off guard and sacrifice like 4 of my creatures to kill their big boy. It could be good, but it's just like so much. But those are the cards that I really like in Magic. Like all those underwhelming cards that people never play are the ones that I really like. And like especially ones like Entrapment Maneuver or like Barrage of Arrows. Prince Imrahil the Fair. I'll be honest, I want his other artwork. I have no idea who this dude is. See, you draw your second card each turn. Create a soldier token. It's not like the best. I don't think this is necessarily the best card in the world. If you have a bunch of card draw that's repeatable, maybe. Like if I did my like white kind of card style with my uh equipments drawing out my lands, and then I had draw cards that were consistent enough from blue, maybe. You're still looking at like a one creature on your turn, unless you can somehow consistently draw 2 cards on all your opponent's turns. And then it would be better, but I don't know. You would have to have a good setup for that. But it is a true 2-drop legendary. Like, if this was your commander, 2-drop it, I don't think it would be too bad. You'd still have to be able to draw. Like, you'd have to have this commander and then, like, a bunch of draw cards. Like, low-cost draw cards. to get it going. Like otherwise, you can just see like Beyard. Humble Defector. Tap 2, draw 2 cards. Target opponent can gain control of Humble Defector. Activate only during your turn. I like this. I'd probably put this in my Queen Marchesa deck too. I mean, you get one use out of it. Draw 2 cards, and then you can give it to them. It would work really good with my Queen Marchesa, I think. Because I plan on using her with like Death Touch Bow Assassins, so I could put this down. They won't destroy it because they want to like get control of the card. I could be like, hey, don't destroy this, and maybe I like equip this with an equipment and then send it at somebody instead of drawing the cards. But I also wonder like if I equip this with an equipment, okay, then I can just tap, draw 2 cards, and give my opponent my creature with the equipment attached to it, and it'd be a really strong monster, and I'll just be like, hey, use that to attack my enemies, um, or I will hit it with a Death Touch bow, you know, something like that. I like these cards that kind of have like a useful effect, but also are like political. The Theoden guy looks like the king from Walking Dead, and I keep seeing that dude every time I look at him. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. It's not bad. I don't know if it's like necessarily worthy of anything crazy, but it's not bad. And we got like this Arcane Signet. So stuff like this, I might just repurpose into the Queen Marchesa deck. I mean, 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So it's not terrible for like these decks right now, but eventually when I get my gun, like I'm gonna turn this deck into Gundor for sure at some point. So we're gonna have Prince Faramir the Fair or the Steward, and it's gonna be blue white, and I'm not necessarily gonna need the mana fixing here, so I can repurpose the card pretty easily, I think. Or I could stick it in the Fellowship deck, but we should have another one of these cards when the Fellowship deck gets here. So, and then we got Commander Sphere. Add 1 mana of any color identity to your commander's color identity. 3 mana, sacrifice it, draw a card. But I'm not hoping that I need any of this color fixing for Queen Marchesa. I doubt that I will, because with her, I'm planning on using search cards for equipments, and then the equipments are going to get me my lands that I need. So these are probably alright, but equip creature gets 3/1. We got Heirloom Blade. When it dies, you may reveal cards top your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it. It's like stuff like this I think I would use in my Marchesa deck maybe as well. Uh, the one thing I have planned for the Marchesa deck that I don't have for these, like we're gonna get all of these fellowships, fellowship deck, Sauron, uh, the Witch King, elves. The Ints I will if possible, but if not, they're gonna be like in the Fellowship deck. So I'm gonna make every single faction that I can in Lord of the Rings the full-fledged deck, preferably only with Lord of the Ring cards, preferably in foil as well. So that's gonna be really good. But we're gonna do the Queen Marchesa deck at some point during this period as well, and I want one of the major themes of her deck to be like each of my creatures can block multiple creatures. So we got Herald's Horn. Enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. Interesting. Could be good. Could be good. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna. I might make proxy for the Marchesa deck. I don't know. At least the commander, but we're gonna start off with normal cards for sure. We gotta buy more rings or more swords for her and equipments. But there's a bunch of cards and there's 2 shields that allow your creatures to block an additional creature each turn. So I think I can get each of my tokens for a Queen Marchesa deck to be able to block like 4 or 5 creatures potentially, and it's gonna be really good. So we got a Soul Ring with Lord of the Ring art. Honestly, as much as I would like to have like one of the elf and dwarf and human soul rings for each of the available decks for Lord of the Rings, I really like this card art that they have right here. It looks like Sauron is holding it or something, but that the art's just pretty darn good right there. I can't really complain. Like if I was going to use a soul ring just for looks, it'd probably be this card most likely. I mean, the other ones are thematic, but this one just pops, you know? Just pops a little bit. I like it. Talisman of Convictions. I haven't really used the talismans that much, but I probably I'm gonna be using it this week, so maybe I'll get used to the talismans. I've never found a reason to use these. Everyone like they use them in their multicolor decks to kind of mana fix and color. They're pretty cheap. Um, but I've been playing mono white for a long time. Like if I had King Darien in a multicolored deck or something, like I could see this being pretty beneficial. That was a white red one. This is a blue white one. Talisman of Progress. This almost looks like Khaleesi from Game of Thrones. I will say that hold on, let me minimize this real quick. What's up, Ronnie? You like Lord of the Rings, Ronnie? I like that. I think if they end up getting like right now, I could potentially make a dwarf and a goblin deck at some point using existing magic cards, but I would prefer to use only Lord of the Ring cards. But my issue with that is like I think the only way that happens is if they are able to make a Hobbit deck. Like they have to make the Hobbit deck cards, and so they have the goblins and the dwarfs in there, and then they can do the whole One Ring thing again with the Arkenstone for the dwarfs, and then you would have the magical elven jewelry from the movies, whatever that thing was called. Thought vessel. No maximum hand size. See, hold up. Thought vessel's already a card, I think, right? This is just different artwork because it's kind of confusing me. I know there's a few cards that give you maximum hand size or like unlimited hand size. Uh, I don't generally play Thought Vessel though, if that's the card that I think it is. I could see in a blue deck how it'd be good. Land and ramp. It kind of depends, honestly. So like Commander and Magic is generally 100 cards, right? And how I kind of when if I'm just making a fun deck, I don't really think about it too hard. Usually like 32 to 34 like lands or something. But my standard had always been like I played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, and those are 60 card decks. They don't have any mana or anything, and so I kind of keep my ratios similar to something I would put on that for the most part. So if I take a Magic Commander deck, it's 100 cards. I'm slotting 40 of them for mana right off the bat. I'm making my main deck with 60 cards. I'm gonna have like probably 3 to 4 board wipe type cards, and then I'll figure out the deck. And then if I need any more space or any more mana, I'll kind of see if there's any cards that can hit 2 slots or adjust how much mana that I have in general. So like my King Darien deck, mono white, 6 mana for the commander. He needs a lot of mana, otherwise people just hate him out of the game. So you have to ramp hard. But if you rely on artifacts, you can get him out fast early, but your steam will drop off if they keep destroying him. So instead of having a bunch of mana ramp in that deck, I have swords and creatures that bring mana out of my deck to thin it down so I'm more consistent on my card draws for cards that I want. And then the swords just give me extra mana every time I'm able to attack, which gives me more and more value. And then the only artifacts that I run in that deck for mana, I think I ran one Mana Vault just to have some extra damage, and then uh, like uh, explanatory lens, or there's like a couple of Gauntlet of Power that can double mana from your lands. So all of my mana like in that deck is based on lands. So the mana rocks are actually just land doublers, so they're useless without lands, but they give way more mana than normal lands do. And I use snow lands in that deck so that other people don't get as much effect. So Wayfarer's Bauble. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but probably looking at like 30, 34-ish lands generally, and then like at least like 6 to 8 ramp maybe. Who knows? It just depends on the commander. Like if you have like a 2-cost commander, I wouldn't care that much about ramp. If your deck, like if all your cards need like 2 mana, the ramp isn't really going to be that big of a deal. But if your cards are like 5, 6 mana, probably need some ramp in there, I'm sure. But I don't try to get too hardcore in Magic. I try to take it easy because when I get competitive, it's no fun. Every game that I ever played, as soon as things get competitive, it drains all the fun out of it. Take League of Legends for example. Climb in that game, you get to the end of it, and you're just like, why am I playing this game? It's like making me old. Sacrifice Wayfarer's Bauble. Search your library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It's not the best. I mean, it's a 1-drop artifact, but you're using 2 mana to get 1 land out. It is deck thinning, but that 2 mana cost is kind of painful a little bit. It's going to slow you down a decent bit. Something that like you could put this down for 1 mana and just kind of sit on it until like you had an opportunity to use 2 mana that you didn't have any other chance for maybe, but hey Ronnie, tell me what you think about this idea though when it comes to Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you've ever played like the RTS for the old Lord of the Rings, but you know how they have the One Ring card? So I want to make a couple game modes. One's going to be like Commander with like it's probably starting with 3 decks for good, 3 decks for evil. And then each of those are going to be 1v1 fights, and as soon as one of those players get taken out, the other team is going to be able to join in on the other fights. Whoever wins wins. The second one would be the One Ring. Instead of it being in people's decks, it'll be like a global artifact, um, like the Monarch ability. And to get it onto the field, you'd need to play Bilbo's Ring. Out of one of the decks that are out the field would play Bilbo's Ring, and then the One Ring would come down and go to that player. But as soon as they take damage or like maybe the ring bearer dies or whatever, another person could take the ring from them. And that would be basically a secondary monarch effect that would be more rare and more powerful during the game. And you could either use it and try to keep it, or you could destroy the ring, and then you'd have until someone else plays another Bilbo card, it would be gone. So I mean, I think it'd be an interesting way to play, but I'm not sure what other people think about it. I'm gonna talk to the people at my local area about it when I go this week. Got a command tower. Well, man, have any color identity. That'd be good for Marchesa as well. See, Evolving Wilds. I like the Shire card more than I like Evolving Wilds. Like Evolving Wilds it's okay. Like early on in the game or something, it's fine, but later on it just feels kind of bad. But that Shire card they just came out with, colorless mana, untapped, and then later on you can dump 1 mana into it and search out a land. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Path of or no Field of Ruin. This is a reskin. Yeah, destroy non-basic land. That's interesting. I'm just taking the time to sleeve these because this is going to be the deck that I play when I go to Magic this week. It's been a long time since I've gotten to play a deck that isn't like super strong. Because ever since my first deck building, like I beat that one person, had the highest high of my Magic life, and then ever since then I've just been like building decks that are just like pretty darn strong. And I really miss just being able to just grab some cards and play some stuff. Well, I don't. Well, no one's really played Lord of the Rings and Magic. Not really. I mean, these are all brand new cards. I don't know if you play Magic a lot, but I think this is something that Magic players are underestimating. So like if you go and look at all the pack openings they're doing for Lord of the Rings, I get that like the card people from Magic understand that like the card prices are gonna go down or something, but maybe I'm just a one rare one in a million case. But this is something that scratches an itch for players that used to play the RTS, I think. Like there's a huge fan base of Battle for Middle Earth RTS players. Like the best RTS game there ever was, and then they're still keeping it alive the best they can. You got fans that are remaking the game brand new to come out pretty soon. Like they've been working on it for a while, you know. There's not an RTS like for it anymore, and this is probably the closest you could get. However, I am thinking about trying to make some of my own cards for a game to kind of relive RTS stuff at some point. Path of Ancestry. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent, cast a creature spell that shares the same. Scry 1. Interesting. Do you play Magic at all, or you just Rogue's Passage? It's interesting that they add cards like this in here because sounds like you should jump back in the Magic pond, my friend. Maybe not break your wallet though. Don't do something expensive, you know? These are not the economic times to be poor. Trust me. So like Rogue's Passage though, they got a few cards. They got the March from the Black Gate, Rogue's Passage. They have Bilbo's Ring. There's a few cards that have your get tempted by the ring. There's a few cards that let you have unblockable creatures in this set, which I think is going to be really busted for a number of reasons. And that Frodo card that can one-shot you, that's going to be the problem with this because he can be a commander. He's like a one-drop commander, and then you need like 3 mana to turn him into a rogue, and then like 4 mana or 5 mana to turn him into the other things. If you want, I mean, I have multiple decks. Um, I kind of just like I find something that's interesting and I build it, but my main color has basically been white for a long time because the first deck that I ever built in Magic was white blue. Um, it was just a mosh posh of cards with Nami Faith Healer as the commander. And Teferi Timebender was basically the commander though. Like I searched him out and played him, and that's the deck that I beat the $15,000 Angel deck with. Dude, people talk trash on mono colors, man. Like they say they're not competitive and stuff, or you got to use like certain commanders. But I'm telling you, I think that people just don't think it through. Like you could definitely play like a mono white, mono black. I don't know about like if you're going for a tournament or something to win a bunch of money necessarily that you would run that, but I think there's a lot of ways. Like there's Black Blades Reforged. I was looking at this for a while, like a mono black deck. There's a commander, and then there's Blackblade Reforged, and there's a couple of other cards that give you like power based on how many lands that you have or swamps. So there's like 4 or 5 cards that you could have that do that, and then you just one-shot people with mono black. But yeah, people are starting to play mono white, I think, more because they started printing stronger cards to try and balance the colors out a bit more. But I've been stomping people with mono white for as long as I can remember. Green and white. Yeah. Green and white is a really strong like token color for sure. I'll tell you that right now. Um, I don't know if you know who he is, but the second commander deck that I ever built was Rise the Redeemed. He's like an elf warrior. He's like 1 mana. Uh, you play him, and I think it's like 2 or 3 mana or something, and you can make an elf warrior token, and it's like 6 mana, and you can use him, and he'll double every token that's on your field. It's absurd. And then you can run things like Martial Coup or Phyrexian Rebirth. Um, there's like a Phyrexia pod. There's some sort of like birthing pod thing that you can give like half of your like you get to choose how much life you give up, and it puts that many like counters on the card, and you can pay like 4 mana and make a token that produces like a black token creature that has that much power and defense based on how much life that you did. And then just there's so many options in white and green. And they have what the hell is it? They have the I think the new Elish Norn, that new Elish Norn that they made, I think doubles tokens maybe or doubles effects enter the battlefield. And then they have like the new Gandalf card can double effects entering the battlefield. Um, Lithoform Engine and something else. There's a lot of things that double effects. You get like doubling season, parallel lives, Helm of the Host. Just there's so many things that you can do that double tokens. You can just swarm so hard. And like white green, you got all the ramp in the world you could ever want. You got all the token doubling things that you could ever want. You got cards that give you like XX power to all creatures and trample. Like it's strong color, real strong. Probably the weakest thing in that color is probably removal. But you'd still have the targeted removal cards of white, like Sword to Plowshares and stuff. But green has like a lot of fighting cards, things like that, which is just it's all right. Secluded Courtyard. It's another mana fixing land. Interesting. Something I haven't tried yet, but I've been tempted to at some point. I was gonna get another cam like this, but there's something called Spell Table, I think it was. You can play Magic like in physical paper, but you have a webcam kind of like what I have set up here, and everybody that you're playing against has one, and you can see each other's fields. I thought about trying that at some point. Terramorphic Expanse. Sacrifice Terramorphic Expanse, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. Interesting. Do you have a white-green commander in mind? I can't guarantee that I know what it is, but I'm by no means a card expert in this game. I'll tell you right now, but another human is a battlefield under your control. Creatures you control get 1/1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. I think the really powerful thing with Magic is that like there's a lot of cards that people say aren't competitive, but I just feel like there's a way that you could probably make any card work, or especially in Commander, like if it's a 1v1, that's where you have to like slug it out and get stuff done really quick. But in like a full Commander game with like 4+ players, I think there's so many ways that you can make cards work in a match that it's just you can make things good. Other colors? Um I can't say that there's necessarily colors that I like with Magic. It's more about the decks. Like like Gundor for Lord of the Rings fills a niche that I've been looking for a long time because I've realized over my years of Magic that a lot of the commanders with really cool effects that I really like end up being chicks, and a lot of the cards that I really like end up being chicks. And I want like a kingdom. So like, even if this Gundor set, they made the tokens like chicks with great swords, where I prefer like the normal Gundor soldiers. But that's part of the reason why I played King Darien. Like I went to mono white because he was there and he's a commander, and I tend to like things that people say are terrible. Every game that I've ever played, I've always like the class that everyone says sucks or gets nerfed, or the decks or the setups that people say are terrible. I like playing them and tinkering with them to make them good. And then when you play against other people, they're like, "Oh, that thing sucks," and then you stomp them with it, and they don't understand, and it's good. It's great. But if I was gonna say colors, my favorite colors are probably like if I was gonna do a competitive game, I would say probably white and blue. Um, when it comes to like general just a deck, mono white's probably my favorite. When it comes to like themes, I like Edgar Markov. So white, red, black, because and Queen Marchesa's in there too. So white, red, black. I think I like both of those. Um, just because they're color schemes. Um, when it comes to like some of my favorite commanders, they tend to be like mono red, just like their effects. but I never really get them to work very well. So like Neheb the Eternal was one of the first commanders that I saw that I was like, I really like this dude, but he's not really a commander I've gotten to work. He works good in like the 99, and then like Varchild, Betrayer of Keldor, was really good. And stuff like that. But yeah, I would say probably white, blue, white, and then white, red, black would probably be my top colors that I like. Um, I like the weeniness of white. Like the white characters and white creatures, they're just like they're wimpy and they don't do a whole lot. Like it's something that just isn't super crazy. Whereas like a green deck, you get super big monsters. You can go wide. You can go tall. You can go through people. But and then when it gets to like black and green or anything like that, like those decks with like I don't like decks that have effects that just like hurt my head. Like I don't want to take a 20-minute turn. It's crazy. Sisei's Legacy. I've seen this card. I think I have this card. I need to look it up though. White green, 2 cost. Shauna Sisei Legacy can't be the target of abilities your opponent controls. Gets 1/1 for each creature you control. That would be pretty strong. See that it just depends like what if you like the character and stuff, by all means, make a deck. There's plenty of ways you can do it. Like off the top of my head, they just added so many Lord of the Ring cards that allow your character to be unblockable, and they have plenty of other equipments that allow your character to be unblockable. You could probably have like 7 or 8 equipments that would make your character unblockable, and then just go wide with tokens, and then just pop your commander down and like one shot somebody. But conversely, if you have like Rise the Redeem, for instance, he would have a similar token theme, but he wouldn't have that +1/+1 for each creature you control. But you could run equipments or something that gave your creatures. I mean, there's equipments, there's enchantments, whatever you want. But you could give something that gives your creatures +1/+1 for each creature that enters the battlefield or is on the battlefield. Like there's Door of Destinies, Cathar's Crusade. There's green creatures that can give you like a 1 turn effect where everything gets a massive buff and has trample. Like anything with like swarms of creatures you can make work. Like you could literally one shot things. But like uh Rogue's Passage, uh the Black Gates, I don't think it's Infiltration Lens. There's an equipment that makes you unblockable. There's Bilbo's Ring, um Tempted by the Ring effect. Uh you could do like Mother of Ruins, Giver of Ruins. They can let you swing in for like one through people. Anything that can give your character protection versus a color. The legendary swords can give you protection from a color. Uh, there's so many things that you could just swing through and smack somebody really hard one time with. Champions of Minas Tirith. I think this is an interesting card. This makes me really wonder about the Gundor deck. If I build my Gundor deck the way I want, maybe I should do more fog type effects and stuff like this, because this one, if you're the Monarch, that opponent may pay X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. If they don't, they can't attack you. So like you could make a Gundor deck that would be pretty strong. Because Farmir, Steward of Gundor, he's like a 2-drop commander, I think, or he's a 4-drop. He's one or the other. And it's like I think each turn, if the opponent doesn't attack you, you get to draw a card, and if they do attack you, you make 3 tokens. And then so you could just make yourself impossible to attack, and then just draw a ton of cards, and then swarm out there, and then when they do attack you, just make multiple tokens. It'd be great. Champions of Minas Tirith. Are you like are you gonna like do competitive Magic stuff, or are you just playing with some friends or something? Dúnedain Protector. I need to look up some of these Lord of the Rings lore, because like Dúnedain, I have no idea who or where these people are. Like the Men of Dale, I know them from the game, but I don't know where Dale is. Okay, so this is a blink, and it gives you a vigilance counter and a lifelink counter. That's interesting. Human Noble. I'm not opposed to this card. Greyhost Reinforcement with Ward 3. A Graveyard Exile card. Interesting. Battlefield under your control, tap target creature and opponent controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. I like it. 4-drop. I mean, it's only 1 creature per turn, but it doesn't require you to do anything. Archivist of Gundor. When your commander deals combat damage to a player, if there is no monarch, you become the monarch. At the beginning of the monarch's end step, that player draws a card. Interesting. Dathor, Seeker of Stone. Sacrifice Danthor. Target player becomes the monarch. Danthor does 3 damage to any target. Interesting. So it's a 1/3 that scries 2, and it's a removal, and it gets you monarch. Fealty to the Realm. I think this is a really good card. Monarchs control the enchanted creature. Enchanted creature attacks each combat if able. So good. And you can just enchant somebody's commander. Oh. Call for aid. Untap those creatures. They gain haste until end turn. See, Call for Aid is something that I would use in the Marchesa deck probably as well. Just snatch all of the creatures they control until end of turn. You untap them. They gain haste. You can't attack that player this turn. That's the only problem. But it basically means that I could give somebody a bunch of creatures, force them to attack somebody, then jack all their creatures, kill off the enemy, give them their creatures back. Interesting. Gimli of the Glittering Caves. This would be a commander that I would run. Double strike, whenever another legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Gimli of the Glittering Caves. He deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Interesting. The legendary dwarf deck. Turn 3, and then he just gives you ramp. Interesting. Boromir, Gundor's Hope. Whenever Boromir, Gundor's Hope, enters the battlefield or attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. If you reveal a human or artifact card from among them, put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. Interesting. I'm not exactly sure how useful this is, but there's a few cards. Like if we did a Gundor deck with enough humans, these search cards could be really good. Boromir, King of Rohan. See, Faramir, Steward of Gundor. This is the guy that I think is going to be my Gundor commander. So whenever a legendary creature with mana value 4 or greater enters the battlefield... Actually, no, this isn't it. You become the Monarch. At the beginning of your end step, if you're the Monarch, create 2/1/1 high human soldier creature tokens. No, this isn't the card that I thought. There's a different card. Which one is it now? I could have swore it was him. Create X/2/2 red human creature knight tokens with trample and haste. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to one or more players this turn, you become the Monarch. Interesting. Oath of Ir. Indestructible counter. And you become the Monarch. Interesting. Riders of Rohan enters the battlefield. Create 2/2 red knight human creature token to trample and haste. Cast a spell for its status cost. If you do, it gains haste and it returns from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So this is interesting for the Riders of Rohan. So you're doing 5 mana for 2/2 red human knights with trample and haste. But if you pay 6, you'll get those 2 knights and this goes back to your hand. So trample, haste, it's a creature. Battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So you use it, you get to go 1 turn, then you attack with it, and then it goes back to your hand. Interesting. I like it. Taunt from the Rampart is something I think I want for the Marchesa deck as well. Goad all creatures your opponent's controls until your next turn. Those creatures can't block. So you goad all your opponent's creatures, and then they can't block you this turn. So you play this card, you swing in, and then so like let's say if you're playing clockwise, you'd probably swing at the guy to your right, and then they would be forced to goad and attack somebody next turn. Actually, goad all creatures your opponents control until your next turn. They can't block at all. So this is just a free smack each other for me card. I like that a lot. 5 mana. Thematic. Crown of Gundor. 1/1 for each creature you control. You become the monarch if the legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control. Okay. And then it only costs 1 to equip. I think this could be good with Marchesa, but not necessarily the best. Like, it's not necessarily something I would care to have in there. Bastion Protector with Gundor art. Yes. Commanders have 2/2 and indestructible. Dearly Departed. 6-drop Spirit that gives your creatures a 1/1. There's a number of cards that are just in this like Lord of the Rings stuff that's just something that I was planning on getting from Marchesa anyway. Like Frontline Medic. Frontline Medic and at least 2 other creatures attack. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And it can counter a spell. Like stuff like this is just something that's pretty good. And there's like Rescue Retriever, Loyal Unicorn. There's like stuff that negates combat damage and stuff to your creatures. It's basically indestructible in combat, just like this. Not necessarily the best thing in the world, but pretty useful if you have a bunch of weenie tokens and you don't want them to die, but you want to still be able to swing in at people. And I think people really underestimate these kind of cards. Increasing Devotion with new art. Create 5 1/1 white human creature tokens. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, you create 10 of those tokens instead. And it gets flashback, so... 5 mana for 5 tokens. And then 9 mana for 10 tokens. Potentially could be good. I mean, probably not my favorite card. I mean, 5 tokens isn't the biggest deal. But I've been using a deck that has so much mana that I could literally dump into any card to make like a billion tokens off of a spell that maybe this is better than I think it is. I might be biased. Marshall's Anthem. I remember this card. I've avoided this card for a while though, because I mean it's good, but it's not like crazy, you know? Creature, you get an Anthem for 1/1, and then you get multi-kicker. So you can pay 2, like a 1 and a white, basically, to copy it. Enters the battlefield, return up to X target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of times Martial Anthem was kicked. Not necessarily bad. I mean, it's just, it's kind of lackluster to me, because, like, 1/1, like, with Darien, for instance, a 1/1 counter isn't nothing to scoff at. It basically deals twice as much damage as they deal to you. But other decks, I just don't know how useful it is to just have like a 1/1 counter on your creature. I don't know. If we can get wide enough, maybe. Selfless Squire. This is another card that I've liked for a while, but I never use it because it always seems to like fall short of like entering, you know? It has flash, 4-drop. Selfless Squire enters the battlefield, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, put that many 1/1 counters on Selfless Squire. What I like about this card too, though, is that you could technically build around it, but you never really see anyone do it. So it's a 4-drop, you flash it in, you prevent all damage that would be dealt to you, which could potentially make this a massive creature. So say if you're making a deck that had a bunch of unblockable cards that would make your character like unblockable for a turn, or give protection for a turn, or any equipment, so you run this card and you just let yourself get swung at for like 20. Pop this card in, boom, becomes a 20/20. Next turn, unblockable, you just smack somebody around. But the interesting thing that no one ever talks about with this card is whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, put that many 1/1 counters on Selfless Squire. And that's something that they don't talk about, but there are cards that prevent damage dealt to you that would technically increase the 1/1 counters on Selfless Squire. There's also a shield that everyone says is terrible. Um, God, I can't think of the name of it. There's a shield though that it reduces the damage taken by like 1 or something, and you can redirect the damage from you to the creature or something like that. And I would assume that would still be considered preventing damage, but maybe not. But yeah, Selfless Squire is an interesting card. It's also interesting because this one, just like the One Ring, so I was talking to somebody about this online. They said the One Ring was like a trash card that nobody should be playing. And I was basically just like, a 4-drop card that comes in and gives you like protection from everything for a turn, and then just gives you a card on top of that. It's not something I would scoff at in any deck for the most part. Um, but I was like, what if you could bounce it? Like you bounce it, you play it, and then you have a card that bounces it back to your hand, and you just play it again like every turn. You have protection from anything, and then you could do whatever you wanted to and just damage everybody at the table and never die. Every turn you just never die, never take any damage. Selfless Squire, I mean that's you. Whenever it enters the battlefield, it just prevents all damage. Like if you had a way to bounce this consistently, pops in, pops out, just bounces, negates all damage, be cool. I like it. Unbreakable Formation. These are some of the other cards. Like I like every card that's like this that you never see anyone play, are cards that I really like. But I also never hardly play them because I always feel like playing something else. Unbreakable Formation, though. Creatures you control gain indestructible to end of turn. And then if you cast a spell during your main phase, put a 1/1 counter on each of those creatures, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. So like it's just stuff like this that you don't see people play so much. Instant spell protects all your creatures. It's 3 mana, which is, it's kind of a little bit, but you also get the ability to also get +1/+1 counters and vigilance. So like you can swing in and still have your defense up, protect your creatures. It's basically like 3 mana, get a free attack in. I can't really say that's too bad. Get a free attack in or protect your creatures from a wipe. If you're playing against really competitive decks, like stuff that gives indestructible isn't as good because people just use exile cards all the time. First strike, Verge Rangers. Top card of your library anytime. As long as an opponent controls more lands than you, you may play lands from the top of your library. I think I like this card. I'm not exactly sure how much I like it. Like my Darien deck and stuff could make use of this. It's definitely, I would say it's definitely more useful like than a one-time use card, but It's just playing a land from the top of your deck. Like, if you never miss your land drops, this card falls off. But if you're missing land drops and people have more lands than you, it could probably be more useful. I don't know. It seems like a card that the less efficient your deck is, the harder it would be to make worth it. Visions of Glory. 5 mana. Create 1 white token for each creature you control. Interesting. So it is 5 for doubling your creatures, and then 10 mana. Somewhat interesting. Weathered Wayfarer. Simple card. Search your library for a land card. Reveal it, put it into your hand. Shuffle. Not terrible. I've kind of moved away from cards like that, but it's not terrible. Combat Celebrant. Extra combat turns. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Court of Ire. Okay, so we got an Earthquake removal. And each player. Flame Rush Rider. Attacks create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know if that would trigger the token effects. I don't. Whenever one or more creatures attack one of your opponents or a planeswalker they control, those creatures gain menace. It's another interesting thing that we could do. Harsh Mentor. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, Harsh Mentor deals 2 damage to that player. Interesting. Shared Animosity. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets 1/0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. That's pretty good. Now you have 4 creatures. They're all getting 4/4. Like you got 4 1/1 tokens. They become 5 1 tokens. I'm not opposed to that. It's only when attacking, but I mean, maybe you don't want big creatures sometimes. Zealous Conscripts. When Zealous Conscripts enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent until end of turn. Untap that permanent. It gains haste until end of turn. Target permanent, though. You could get mana rocks or something. Not terrible. Supreme Verdict. Beef Supreme. Spell can't be countered. Destroy all creatures. I like it. That would go in the Gundor deck for sure. I mean, 4 mana to just wipe out all creatures, can't be interrupted. Can't get better than that. Door of Destiny is battlefield choose creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on Door of Destinies. Creatures you control the chosen type get 1/1 for each counter. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Vanquisher's Banner, also a decent card. Creatures you control the chosen type get 1/1. Whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. So I mean, a 1/1 Anthem and card draw. Not terrible. Like it. Human deck. I mean, you have to cast the spell, but I mean, it's not too bad. I'm gonna look at these lands real quick. So we get Battlefield Reforged. So we get red and white dual land, tapped red and white land, exotic orchard. Add mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. I don't know if this is good or not. Like, it could be mana fixing, but if you happen to be going against people that don't have the same colors as you, it could be a problem. So, if you don't, just have, so we get a red-white dual land with entering the battlefield tapped. Okay. Port Town, red, blue, or white, blue. Sulphur Falls, blue, red. Throne of the High City. Can sack it to become the monarch. Hmm. Tranquil Cove, Windsor Crag, red and white land. Yeah, so if I do make a Marchesa deck, I'll have a few different lands. Eowyn Shield Maiden. In the back of the deck, this one's a little dull. A little dull colored. This one's really thick. Jesus, what? This is the thickest magic card I've ever felt. What is up with that? Hello? I need to I need to ask somebody about this. See what anyone has to say about it. Got some soldier tokens. Human soldier. And a human token. I like the male human soldiers better on here. But I would prefer to have some Gundor soldiers at some point. The One Ring. One ring to go to the mall. Let's go ahead and put our soldiers. I need to find my Marchesa card. That's for sure. Also, who's going to be the commander of this deck? That's something I need to figure out before Thursday. Technically, tomorrow I could go play, but this deck is 3-color, so okay. Who can be the commander? We got Eowyn Shield Maiden or Aragorn, King of Gondor. Holy crap. These card sleeves. These are Ultra Pro. God, these things stick like crazy. Can't believe that we don't get a Faramir card. Let me go find that Shield Maiden real quick. That's what it is. There you go, and take her back out at some point. Yeah. It looks like a card, but it's like a topper, probably. This thing is super thick and durable, though, that's for sure. Looks really good. I mean, compared to the normal card, extra shiny, extra thick. Interesting. I like the weight to it too. I mean, that's a very sturdy, durable card. Doesn't look like it's gonna bend or anything. Super thick. Take my money. They had to come out with this right before like a big financial collapse or something, so I'd be poor. Exactly what's going down right now. Why you gotta do me like that, game? Should I open up these little mini boosters right now, or wait until I get all my other cards? That's the question. I don't know if I can make myself wait. That's the real thing. Sample pack. So if we do Eowyn, it's a 5-drop, 5/4 first strike. If a human enters the battlefield under your control this turn, create 2/2 red human knight creature tokens with tramp. If you control 6 or more humans, draw a card. And if we do Aragorn, it is a 4-drop, Vigilance lifelink. You become the Monarch. Up to 1 target creature can't block, and if you are the Monarch, creatures can't block. I mean, I would almost say that the Shield Maiden is stronger. I'm gonna do a sample hand. I think it's reasonable. Let's go ahead and let's go all the way down here to Vanquisher's Banner. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Jesus, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I don't know. Got 31 lands. And we need to find those mana rocks. Don't ask me if what I'm doing is legal or not. I have no idea, but this is basically how I've did it forever now. Anytime that I make a new deck or I play a deck, I will separate the mana stuff from the other stuff. Thought Vessel, got Talent. We actually have a lot of mana in here. Holy crap. Commander Sphere. This Trinket. There's a lot. Okay. So we had 31 lands. Now we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have 46 mana cards, which seems like a lot. Half mana, half cards. I guess the focus is to get your commander out early. Alright. So let's just look and see what kind of cards that we get. So this is fairly even, so I'm just going to go 1 for 1. But a lot of my decks, I tend to have like a third of the deck mana or something, so I'll go like 2 to 1. Do 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 do. I need to put some oil or something on these bad boys. Holy moly, they stick. Need some WD-40 up in here. I don't know what the other card sleeves I have are. I bought them like at a store a long time ago, but they are so smooth. So smooth. They don't stick. They shuffle really easy. Okay, so maybe I should have had 2 to 1. I'll make it work. It's whatever. Shove them in, Gandalf. If only I had more card sleeves. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we got a Field of Ruin, Gundor, Archivist of Gundor. At the beginning of the Monarch's end step, that player draws a card. That's kind of risky. So we got like 3 lands, 3 everything else. Sort of. 4 lands, 5 lands, 6 lands. I guess Eowyn's supposed to be the commander. I don't particularly want to play her though, but she has a good effect. Aragorn would come out earlier and put the Monarch on the field and be able to swing in unblockable probably for the first couple of attacks. Get like 8 commander damage on somebody, which wouldn't be too bad. But at that point, if you're not able to keep the Monarch, I mean, he also has Vigilance though. Turn 4, Aragorn, and then you can attack in. You get like 8 damage off, but you'd also have a blocker. Oh, so you could potentially keep the Monarch maybe for a couple turns, but Eowyn, it's going to be 1 more mana, but every time you cast a human, well, actually, if another human entered the battlefield under your control this turn, you create a 2/2 red human knight, or 2 2/2 red human knight creature tokens, trample and haste. And if you get 6 or more humans, you draw a card. It just seems stronger. I don't know. Aragorn's probably the safer bet. Eowyn, like out of all these cards, we're a few turns in. We have 1, 3 humans. Guess we'll go Eowyn. Eowyn. Okay. I want to see. It seems like we're missing the 2 cards that I wanted out of everything. Oh. Since I can't remember the card off the top of my head, I need to go to Magic the Arena real quick. Because it's a blue-white. I think it's a 4 mana. If I'm correct. Oh, let's go Dex. Okay, so Lord of the Rings. White and blue. Should be a creature. creature. We'll have another eagle. Okay, so 4-drop Faramir, Prince of Ithilien. So the other one, I already forgot what it does. Crap. Is the other one mono blue? Doesn't seem to be in here. I think the other one, it made 1 soldier token when you drew the second turn or something. Or it drew a card. Something, I don't even remember what it was, man. Let me find it. I don't even know if it's on Arena. It doesn't look like it. But Faramir, Prince of Ithilien is the one that I'm interested in. So it's a 4-drop, blue-white, legendary, human noble. At the beginning of your end step, choose an opponent. At the beginning of that player's next end step, you draw a card if they didn't attack you. Otherwise, you create a 3/1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. And I think that's potentially better, like, because it's not Monarch, but it does make somebody want to attack you, potentially. But I don't know if it'd be better or not, to be honest. Like, it seems like it would be a really good card. Like, in my head, I'm thinking, like, Helm of the Host, Faramir. You make a copy of it. My end step, I choose 1 opponent. And if they don't attack me, I get 1 card. If they do, I get 3 soldiers. And a Pillow Fort deck, I could see this being decent. I mean, you're basically, if you make it hard for them to attack you, you're basically making it to where you're going to get free card draw off of it. And then if they do manage to attack you, you're going to get 3 soldiers off of it, which you just need to be able to balance out the power, which is kind of interesting. Sauron. All right. I want to end this one, and then we'll do the Sauron one here in a second.